I want first to start my talk by having a quick poll. So, who here was not born in Canada? Please, raise your hand. Who's here or whose parents were not born in Canada? Please join us and raise your hands again. Okay. The last one. Whose grandparents were not born in Canada? Thank you. It seems that all of us know what it means to be a newcomer or an immigrant. But let me share with you today what I have learned by being an immigrant refugee. It was the summer of 1998. I was in my city, Aleppo, the city that I born in and belong to. And during the summer vacation, I was trying to gain a couple of new skills and to learn new words in my father's shop. And then a man, a tall man, bald, with the brown eyes and browny skin, entered the shop. After saying Assalamu alaikum to everyone and spreading his positive vibes and wide smile with us, he chose the seat next to me and immediately started asking me questions. He knew my name. He knew my family members. He knew them all by names and so many personal details. It was something very surprising for me. I mean, how this stranger that I didn't met before knows everything about me and I don't know anything about him. But still I was 8 years old and I was shy and not confident to ask him, who are you? And how do you know all those things? Still, the moment he left the shop, I ran into my father and asked him, Dad, please tell me who is this weird guy that knew everything about us? And even my father's answer was more surprising and more weird when he told me the guy is your cousin. So the gentleman's name was Najm. Najm in Arabic means a star. Najm was my grandfather's brother's son. I mean my great-uncle's son. And my great-uncle's son name was Abdullah. During the World War I, a massive massacre happened in the Ottoman Empire. Lots of people were killed and displaced. And among them was the Armenian genocide. During the genocide in 1915, lots of Armenians were displaced, and a group of them reached Canada, as you may know them, Georgetown boys. And another groups preferred to stay in the region and came to Syria. And among them was Abdullah and his father and mother. So while they were in the caravans reaching the Syrian desert, Abdullah was still newborn baby. And his mother decided in order to protect his life, she gave him to a Bedouin family that crossed their way during a place called Raqqa in Syria. The Bedouin family accepted the call. They adopted Abdullah. And Abdullah had a new life again. And that day, Abdullah reborn again. Although Abdullah has a different cultural, social, even religious values from us, but he stayed deeply connected with us. And such stories are not very, very unique in our region, since the Middle East, as specifically Syria, was always welcoming refugees. We at Syria, we welcome Greeks, Armenians like me, Kuwaitis, Palestinians, Iraqis, Lebanese, Sudanese, and much more. But I was always asking what it means to be a refugee. What kind of moral challenges Abdullah and other refugees has. What it means to live somewhere in the future and as well as in the past. But all those questions became a reality when in 2012 I became a refugee. You cannot understand what it means exactly being a refugee unless you go through it. Being a refugee means losing your home. Being a refugee means losing your friends, your family, your university, your education, and most important, your sense of belonging. Being a refugee means worrying about your safety, your security, and being afraid of the future. Being a refugee for me was even asking and questioning every single detail in my life. In some points, I lost belief in God, in human beings, in people, and in everything in this life. But the moment I thought I was giving up hope and losing everything, and amazing people and beautiful people surprised me. In 2012, when I moved from Syria to Lebanon, the Lebanese community welcomed me. Lots of groups, and especially Armenian community, they did their best so I could adjust and be part of them. First, they gave me a scholarship to be part of Haigazian University. Then they welcomed me in their communities and social circles, and most important, they shared work opportunities with me, unless that Lebanon has one of the highest unemployment rate in the region. And maybe you don't know that Lebanon faced tons of problems, from political security issues, and then recently one of the biggest environmental crises in the region, terrorism, high unemployment rate, and so on. But our neighbors, they did their best in their limited resources to help us. But still, the problem is bigger than everyone there. And in 2015, 5 months before, I landed here in Canada, in Toronto. And immediately we were connected with the different Canadian groups. And people started sharing with us furniture, food, clothes, job opportunities, and much more. And that was not something very unique compared to the Canadian society and values. And especially that from Georgetown boys and onwards, Armenians established churches, schools, clubs, and businesses here. They became part of the Canadian mosaic. And they established an infrastructure for its community members so they contribute to the Canadian society as well as to keep their cultural and, let's say, traditional values. And again, Canada has lots of stories similar. People fled Europe, and especially Scotland, Germany, France during the 16th, 17th, 18th century, and seek asylum here. If you are an Irish, your parents and grandparents fled Ireland during 19th century famines and came here, started new life. And the same goes for Canadian Jewish people. They were fleeing the Holocaust and coming here to Canada. And even the Americans, now we hear a lot that they will flee if our poor friend Trump wins. But they made it before, during the American Revolution, and they started new life here in Canada. So we see Canada as a country, although it's young, but it has long experience and wisdom when it comes to dealing with refugees and welcoming people and sharing with them citizenship, land, and opportunities. But other Syrian fellows from different communities like Shias, Sunnis, Yazidis, Kurds, Alawis, Assyrians, Catholic, Maronites, and others, they didn't have these well-established groups. They didn't have these people welcoming and helping them to transfer their skills and to be part of the community as soon as possible. And here, I found an opportunity. And here, I found that my background, combined with my connections, as well as my professional skills, could be a bridge, helping those newcomer Syrians to stay or to establish connection within the Canadian work environment as well as social and community environment. And here I jumped in and started working with an amazing organization, Canadian one, called Arab Community Center of Toronto, where we help Arabs in general and people from Middle East, and especially nowadays Syrians, to integrate and to become part of the Canadian society by giving them job opportunities, by giving them language training, resettlement services, and as well as establishing social and community connection within the Canadian work environment. And an amazing step that I'm proud of was being part of another amazing humanitarian organization called Talent Beyond Boundaries, based in Washington, D.C., where we help talented refugees in camps back from Jordan, Lebanon, and Turkey to be matched with potential multinational employers. So whenever they will be hired, we help them with the relocation so they could start new life and new opportunities. And once I started working with refugees, and I saw even a bigger potential. And then we decided with other Syrian expatriates that more needed to be done. And we established a new initiative called Diffugees. And it's a combined word from digital and refugees, where we are helping multinational humanitarian organizations that are dealing and managing refugees and immigrants to integrate within their community using our own digital communication channels. And why we called ourselves Difugees? We didn't accept to make the refugee word taboo and shameful. So we flipped it over and we re-empowered it again by giving ourselves and naming ourselves Difugees. But let's come back to the 6th, here in Toronto, and especially today at U of T. What we can do as professionals, academics, faculty members, admissions, to help those newcomers to integrate to the community. Let's start by establishing open houses so those newcomers could meet faculty members, admissions, so they could discuss how they could continue their education as soon as possible. Another thing we could do, we could help them, I mean help me and help us, by giving us the opportunity to volunteer, to find the right mentors so we could transform our professional skills to meet the Canadian standards. And once we do that, I believe we could do what Canada does best, using its diversity as a strength to build communities and opportunities, not for ourselves, but for the entire world. Back in 1998, where first I met this stranger Bedouin, I thought he was offending me. I thought he was just insulting me and asking me so many private questions and in my father's job. But what I have learned, that whenever you stop a little bit and start dig a little bit deeper to ask a couple of questions, trying to understand what's happening, you will realize that we are all connected in a way or another. Like today, I had just 3 questions, and we realized that we are all newcomers here. And we have been all newcomers in a way or another. Maybe newcomer to family, to love, to culture, to job, maybe to the university, our first year. And we will be always newcomers in a point or another. And despite of Abdullah's both mother, biological and adopted, they didn't have the channels and the tools to communicate with each other. That's why it took them 15 years to be reconnected again. But here, we are living in the digital world. We have all the required channels and tools to be connected with each other and to communicate and reach out to those people and help them and offer them a help. And again, once we do that, I believe we could do what Canada does best, using its diversity as a strength to build communities and opportunities for the world. And let's do that by sharing our empathy with those newcomers who left everything behind to focus on the future and start a new life and build something. The Syrian refugee crisis is no more an article or a picture or a video on a YouTube channel. It's a community building exercises in our neighborhood in Toronto today. So let's make the best out of it. Let's walk away today with more sense of responsibility, first toward each other and toward our collective shared future. And one way to do that is to remember that we are all connected.